Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to play chess. It is one of the most strategic board games and it requires a bunch of mindset and logical thinking. You need to think of how to play the game. So I'm just going to start off with the basic board setup and those other things. And then I'm going to tell you how the pieces move. There's types of pieces, so I'm going to tell you how they move, and then I'm going to tell you about the basic terms, check and checkmate, and then I'm going to just revise everything. So let's start by the board setup. There are diagonals all the way like this. They're on either color. They go all the way across the board. These ones that start from the corner and end from the corner are called the center diagonals. And then there's files, like here. This is A, this is B, this is C, this is D, and this is E, and so on. And then these are the ranks. First rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So the ranks are forward, the forward movement. And then the files, the ranks are the sideways movement, while the files are the backward and forward movement. I just got them mixed up. So now, let's start about the pieces. Start with pawns. The pawns cost 1 point, just one. The pawns start on the second row or seventh row, respective of the color. The pawns move 1 square only forward. They cannot move backward. But the way pawns capture, they don't capture forward. They capture 1 square sideways, diagonally, in front of them. They cannot capture backwards. If a piece is in front of them, as they cannot capture forward, they capture this way, if I told you, right? They capture diagonally. They capture this way. See, if a pawn is here, and there's these 2 squares, it can kill, for example, if there's something here and something here, it can kill anyone here. Or it can also move forward if it wants to. It's not necessary to kill. And, fun fact. If pawns are still on their second or seventh rows and they haven't moved, they can move 2 steps instead of just one. They can move 2 steps. And pawns can capture each other. And if there's a piece in front of a pawn, it cannot capture forward, as I told you. It's blocked. It can't move unless one of your pieces captures that piece and then moves out of the way, so then the pawn can go. Bonus fact. If a pawn reaches all the way to the other side of the board, it can promote to a bishop, a rook, a queen, or even a knight. It can promote to any piece available. So this other thing, which I'll tell you in the check and checkmate thing. So yeah, so that's all with the pawns. They move 1 square, and if they haven't moved, they can move double step. And they capture 1 square diagonally in front of them. Now that the pawns are done, next let's move to the minor pieces, the bishops and the knights. There's 8 pawns in each color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for white, all on the second row. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for black as well on the 7th row. Now, the bishops start in the center area and they're on opposite colors. The knights start next to the bishops to the edge of the board, like this, to the edge, not to the center. The bishops move diagonally in any direction, all the way here. You can start, so it starts here. It's blocked with pawns at the start. So you just move one of the pawns and then it can go here. It can go over here. It can go all the way over here. It can even go back here. It can go like this, like this, like this. And it also captures the same way, unlike pawns. Pawns capture differently from their movement, right? So the black bishops start adjacent, on the same file. And now the knights are a little complicated. The knights start on the edge of the board, near the edge at least. They move in an L-shaped thing. So they move 2 squares in any direction, and then 1 square in any direction. It cannot move diagonally. It can move 2 squares horizontally or vertically, and then 1 square in the opposite direction. For example, it can go over here, and it can go over here, because it can go 1, 2 this way, or it can go 1, 2 this way. It can go 1, 2 this way, or this way. Goes 1, 2 this way, or 1, 2 this way. That's how the knights move. Oh, if I didn't mention it, other pieces are blocked. For example, this bishop cannot move. Okay, for example, just imagine this is our own piece. We cannot capture our own piece, so it's blocked. It can only, like, if it's blocked, but both sides, it just can't move. Like, as it starts off with the pawns. But the knights, they can jump over pieces. Yeah, the knights can jump over pieces. You can go like this, and you can just jump like this. And the knights capture the same way as well, unlike pawns. Oh, and both of them cost 3 points. The knights and bishops both cost 3 points. Next, let's talk about the rooks. The rooks start on the very, very edge of the board. Like, what's the other one? Yeah, here. They start on the corners of the board, like at the edge. At the edge here. And they move sideways or forwards and backwards. And they kind of capture the same way too. And there is some special move with the king and the rook, which I will explain later. Like, they capture the same way. Like, they move here, they can capture this way, or they can capture downward, or they can capture upward. So there's a special move with the rooks, which I will explain to you guys after, like, probably in the revising section. So now that the rooks are done, let's talk about the queens. The queens start in the center D file. There's D file. I told you about files and ranks, right? They start in the D file. And they have the combined movements of the rook and the bishop. The rook moves up, down, left, right. The bishop moves diagonally. So that means the queen can go up, down, left, right, and it can even go diagonally. And they capture the same way too. Duh. All the pieces except pawns capture the same way as their movement. Oh, and queens are also blocked, rooks are also blocked. The only piece that can jump is the knight. Now let's talk about the kings. The kings start on the E file. And they move 1 square in any direction only. So that means they can go here, 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 here. There's another thing called check and checkmate, which stops the king from moving, which I'll explain in the main term section. They move 1 square in a direction. It can go all the way here. Just 1 square only. And also, kings can capture the same way. Like, really. They just capture the same way. For example, this thing comes here. This can just capture. The queen comes. And then I'm going to talk about ways of draw and other stuff. Okay, now that I've showed you how the pieces move, let's just do a quick revision. Pawns, all the pawns start on the 2nd or 7th rows respectively. They can move 2 squares if they haven't moved yet. They capture 1 square diagonally. After the first move, it can only move 1 square. And if it goes to the end of the board, it can promote to any piece. A knight, a rook, a bishop, or a queen. And next, let's talk about the bishops. The bishops start on either color because they only go on the same color because they just go diagonally like this. So they just can't change colors. They just go diagonally and they capture the same way. The knights move in an L shape. They move 2 squares in any direction except diagonally and 1 square in any direction except the way it moves. For example, if it moved 2 squares this direction, it can't go here or here. It can't go diagonally, so it has to go these 2 squares, any of these squares, like that. It goes in a 1-2 turn, or 1-2 turn, or 1-2 turn. It goes like that. Now, let's talk about the rooks. The rooks start on the corner. They go up, down, left, right. And then finally the queens, no, not finally, they go up, down, left, right, and also diagonally. It's like a rook and a bishop combined together. And then the kings go 1 square in any direction, unless it puts the king in check. I'll talk about that later. So they go 1 square in any direction, like this. Unless the move puts the king in check, which I will explain. And now, let's talk about the main terms which I talked about. Check and checkmate. So, there is nothing called capturing the king in chess. If a king is threatened to be captured, it must move. It can't just stay there because there's nothing about kings being captured. It's the most loyal piece. If a king is threatening to be captured, it must move. Or something like you can block it with another piece or something like. Okay, I'll talk about that now. Whenever a piece is threatening to capture the king, it is called a check. Ways to escape check are move out of check by moving your king, or block with one of your pieces, or you can kill the piece that is checking you. Oh, and there's also this thing called double check, which I will explain right now. So here, no, 1 square forward. See, here, in this position, if the knight goes in a 1-2 turn here, that makes a check because it's 1-2 turn, and it also uncovers the rook. In this position, you cannot block with any of your pieces. The only way to escape a double check is to move your king. Oh, and also, if, for example, like 1 second. For example, something like this. You can capture this bishop because it's unprotected. But if it is protected by something, then you just have to move. So, recap. When a king is when a king is threatened to be captured, for example, this bishop is threatening to capture that king, it's called a check. Oh, and you can also check with pawns this way. Like if you move the pawn forward this way and you have a protection, this bishop is protecting the pawn, the king can either move to this square, the king can either move to this square or this square or this square or anywhere. If it moves here, then you probably have another piece with you and just come here. Then after the king moves, you can just move this, forcing the king to move somewhere. Then you can just check him. Then you can move, and then you can do this. So checking with the pawn is like normal. It's like how it captures diagonally in front. So if the king is here, it's not checked. Only if it's on the side, like diagonally. So now that the check thing is done, now let's talk about checkmate. Checkmates usually happen sometimes at the start of the game, sometimes in the middle of the game, sometimes all the way at the end. So we call the start of the game opening, the middle called the middle games, the ending the end game. So for example, in this position here, white has a rook and the queen. I'll just tell you one of the most common checkmates here. Here, it's white's turn. He moves here, checking the black king. See here, he can't go backward because of the rook, so he has to go this way. And then you can bring the rook over here, making him not go there because of the queen. And then you come here. And then after you come here, the king, can he move anywhere? Here, it would be a check. Here, also would be a check. These 3 squares are by the rook, and these other squares are by the queen. Here, the king has nothing to do. No matter where he moves, he will still be in check. This thing is called checkmate. Checkmate happens when a king is in check and you cannot escape from the check. For example, if there's some queen here, then you can block the check, which is fine. But it would be checkmate next move anyway. So here, if a piece is able to block the check or something like that, then it's fine. But if there's nothing to block the check or capture the checking piece, then it's a checkmate. So recap. When a king is threatened to be captured, it's called a check. The way to escape, you can move the king out of check. For example, like this, where it's no longer attacked. Or you can block with one of your own pieces. Or you can capture the checking piece, like that. So, now that I've done that, checkmate happens when the enemy king has nowhere to go. When the enemy king has nowhere to go. For example, this is like something that happens in the endgames. This is a queen and king checkmate. All these squares are occupied by the queen, and the king can't take the queen because it's protected by the king. Another fact, the kings cannot touch each other. It's just illegal because then the other king can just capture the other king. So there's nothing called capturing. So that's practically just illegal. The kings cannot touch. They just cannot touch. It's illegal. Now, I'm going to talk about, let's talk about Now let's just revise everything a bit. We'll start by the pawns. They start on the second row of the white, seventh row of the black. They move one square in any direction, and they capture one square diagonally in front of them in any direction. And if they haven't moved at all, and they're still on the second or seventh rows, they can move double step, like 2 steps. And then the bishops move diagonally. They cannot change colors. The knights move 1, 2 squares except diagonally and then turn. Like they go 1, 2, turn, or this way. Or they can go 1, 2, turn. So it goes in the opposite direction. So for example, if it goes 2 squares up, then it can only go sideways, like here or here. If it goes 2 squares to the side, then it can only go up or down, 1 square. The knight cannot move diagonally. A knight is the only piece that can jump over other pieces. For example, they're blocking the knight from moving, but the knight cannot move because it can't jump. It goes 1, 2, turn. Oh, and when jumping, it does not capture the piece. It jumps over. You just can't do that. It just doesn't jump. Just 1, 2, turn this way. Or 1, 2, turn. And then the rooks move up, down, left, right. Then the queens move like a bishop diagonally. Or they move up like a rook. Up, down, left, right, like a rook. And the kings move 1 square in any direction unless it puts the king in check. You just can't do that. So for example here, in this position, the black king here cannot move here as it would put him in check. Or like it would be threatening him to capture. Or if it was here, he cannot move here, he cannot move here. Like this. Alright, that was it. If you want me to teach you more about chess, make sure to subscribe and like this video. And comment down below on what chess things I should do. More educational or like some things. Oh, and I'm just going to give you this starting setup. I'll just do this for a sec. This is how all the chess games start. The rooks are on the edge, followed by knights, bishops, and then the queen on the d file and king on the e file. Same thing on the black side. Oh, wait. I forgot to tell you about this special move with the king and the rook. There's a special move. So, if the king and rook like see each other, for example, like if there's a piece in between, this move cannot be done. So this move is called castling. So when there is an open space between the king and rook, you may move the king 2 squares towards the rook and then bring the rook to the other side. This move is called castling, and this is the only time you can move 2 pieces in one move. So the king moves 2 squares and the rook goes on to the other side. Oh, and if the king is moved before, like for example, just remove all these pieces so that you can see. If the king has moved before, it may not castle at all. Or if the rook has moved, you may not castle with that rook, but if the other rook hasn't moved, you can castle with that other rook. See, like the king starts on e file, right? So if it's anywhere, if it moves anywhere, then it just cannot castle. If one of the rooks has moved, then it's fine. You can castle with the other rook. Oh, castling to the rook on the other side of the board is called queen side, while castling on this side where there's no queen is called king side. So same thing. 2 squares, rook comes to the other side. And otherwise 2 squares here, and rook comes to the other side. Oh, there's also one thing I forgot to tell you. If something is blocking an open space in between the king and rook, for example, this queen is blocking this square. So the king just cannot castle because it passes through check. It can castle this way if that rook hasn't moved. Or if a piece is threatening the square which the king will move to, it just cannot do that either. Instead, for example, if you're not able to castle on either side because of one piece, you just can't castle. You have to either block it something like this before you can castle, or you must capture the piece before you can castle. So that's it for the video. So pawns move 1 square forward and then only forward. It can promote if it reaches the end and captures 1 square diagonally in front. Bishops move diagonally in any direction on the same color. Knights move 2 squares in any direction except diagonally and 1 square in the other direction. The rooks move up, down, left, right. The queen goes diagonally like the bishop and up, down, left, right like the rook. The king moves 1 square in any direction unless it puts the king in check. And castling is done if the king and the rook you're trying to castle with haven't moved. If you move the king, you just cannot castle anymore. If you move one of the rooks, you can just castle with the other rook. And guess what I'm going to say? I forgot to tell the files. The ranks go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're sideways. The piece moves sideways through them. And the files go up and down. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And coordinates. Like intercrossing the files and the ranks. For example, if the knight goes 1, 2, turn this way, it's on the 5th rank and the C file. So you move the C5. So the knight is on C5. When this rook goes here, it moves into E1. So E1. That's how you call square coordinates. And if you want to see more educational videos like this, make sure to subscribe and like. If you want to see more chess, just tell me in the comments. Like what topic of chess should I do? Like games or more education or something like that. See you later, guys. Bye.